I recognise mine is the last formal presentation, so I will try not to keep you too long before questions. I see the font has changed slightly. Hopefully the slides will be okay. So I thought what I'd do is just, there's been lots of presentations, and a lot of what I'm going to say is probably the reason why we have the project ecosystem valuation for railways coming up. We recognise that there is a need for all the stuff that people have talked about during today. Thierry mentioned, I think, early on this morning about the amount of funding that was available for global infrastructure. But I think, as we all know, the amount that we have available for doing the stuff that we like to do, the biodiversity, those elements, just doesn't even compete. And we need to be able to demonstrate why we should have the money. And I think that's where the main reason for this project's coming. Cara mentioned about the amount of money that's being made available for her to upgrade the assets in North America. But we've got to make sure that the biodiversity is taken account of when it's not just about building those parallel bits of metal on some stones. There's a lot of other infrastructure that Julia showed us that can be impacted by the work we're doing. So we need to be able to value what we're taking out as we go forward. John talked about the collaboration we need to do, not only between ourselves, frankly, but also with those adjacent landowners who are often the people who have to manage that land. And then Michael has been talking about the data collection. We've seen that all the way through. Data has really come forward as being something that we need to be aware of. A few challenges with the wording there, but in terms of the ecosystem services that we've seen all the way through today, these are the things that are there: the climate regulation, water regulation, the erosion prevention, the aesthetic. The railway is something that's very nice. I mentioned this morning, the problem is nobody wants to see it. They want that big green line of trees between them and the railway because they don't want to see what we're doing, but we have the potential. What it can do for security of the railway, whether that's to prevent people getting onto the railway, or is it to stop or reduce the numbers of animals getting onto the railway? And then the cultural impact, what it does for those people who see what the railway can do and what we can do for those, and then those supporting benefits. And I'm just going to go through sort of a number of different images. Thomas, you'll recognize a number of these because I stole yours, so thank you very much. But in terms of the water regulation, the opportunity that we have for those nature-based solutions, what can biodiversity do for the railway with the water retention, actually doing it properly rather than engineered and civil engineered work, actually get the nature to do the work for us. Another OBB image, the erosion prevention, the woodlands at the top of that, or forest probably more correctly, at the top of that hill, stabilizing slope, the amount of work that needs to take place to make sure that the railway doesn't get impacted. We had a derailment in the UK a couple of years ago where a number of people were killed because of the water flow off the adjacent land, washing debris onto the railway, which caused the train to derail. That is something that we can monitor. We can see where the benefits we get from the vegetation. The aesthetics, this is in North Wales. I mean, it's beautiful, and there are other beautiful railways across the globe. And this is the sort of thing that we can, we've got to put a value on this. This is something that we can sell. In the UK, we are really struggling to get people back onto the trains, to get them to move them around, not only for commuting, for work, but also for pleasure. And that's certainly somewhere where you could, I mean, it doesn't always look like that in North Wales. Generally, it's a little bit grayer, but when the sun does come out, it is very nice. And the security. This is blackthorn. It's one of the prunus species, and it has really good spiky thorns that if you want to stop people or animals getting onto the railway, this is far nicer than a 2 meter high palisade steel fence. And the carbon element, this actually takes up carbon rather than using it in its production, and it looks pretty good as well. And it's that sort of element. We can have, UK, we have 32,000 kilometers of fence line. If we had 32,000 kilometers of hedgerow, the biodiversity goes through the roof. But also people looking at that both from the trains and then, you know, from the adjacent neighbours, it would be a lot better. From a cultural point of view, I think this is, I think Finnish Railways, this is on the train, actually, that, you know, this is somewhere to put the children on the train whilst you're trying to do the work, or, you know, commute, you know, somewhere, you know, you've got a slide on a train. How cool is that? I mean, I know I'm a little bit older, but I think I'll probably fit down the slide. You know, we have that, we can give this to and the thing with this, what drew my eye to this was it's somewhere for the kids to play, but the theme is all biodiversity. There is a toadstool, there's a mole, albeit it's got an umbrella, but you know, there's footprints, there's books, there's the play area for the kids to go to. So you've got the train, but you've got the biodiversity on the train, and then you look out the window and you've got the woodland managed properly next to the railway. It's that ability for the railways to do this, to enthuse people. And this is a Deutsche Bahn video that I found, which it was amazing. I've been trying to create an animation to demonstrate what we're doing in the UK. Michael, I'll be stealing the video, but this, in terms of the supporting benefits that the railway land can provide. The UK, we have 52,000 hectares of railway land, which, if you know the Isle of Wight at the bottom end of Britain on the south coast, it's 1.5 of the Isle of Wight is the area of land that we have. The opportunity for pollinators alongside the railway, 32,000 kilometres either side of the railway. It's a lot of potential for pollinators, and we need to value that and take that forward. And then the final one is, I can't remember what the one was, climate regulation. So this is in Sydney. It's one of it's the Olympic Stadium in Sydney in Australia, and the trees there to provide shading. We saw shading, I think, in some of the other presentations earlier. I think Thomas with the solar panels over the top. This is that natural shading, and using that and designing this. And we've heard about the design all the way through today, getting it right so that you can get the people onto the trains and the trains can do their thing. But actually the opportunity for the ecosystems to provide something else on top of this. And where that all ties in together with the EcoVar project is, how much is all of that actually worth? You know, what is the value of a child getting onto a train and seeing biodiversity and the stuff that we all do whilst on that train journey? You know, what will that child then become when they leave school and they go off and they become the next Gabriel, you know, one of our year industry students, you know, the PhDs that we've seen? You know, that is a massive thing that the railway needs to value and see how we get there. The view, you know, what price do you put on North Wales in the sunshine? And, you know, how much is that bee worth? What is that actually doing in terms of the pollinator benefits, not only for the native and the wildflowers and the wildlife we have on our side of the fence, where we have a fence, but also for that adjacent agricultural land, and, you know, the benefits that that can do. And then we heard from Julia about the, you know, the climate change aspects. They will need somewhere to travel up and down. We've got the trains traveling up and down. Let's the biodiversity, let those pollinators move up and down the actual railway infrastructure itself. And so where we go with the project itself is that we need to look at all of this, define the requirements, and this work package is where we're going. These are the 5 work packages that we have. And so once we know what the requirements are, then we can look at a typical railway system. And I think we're all fairly regular in that we have the railway down the middle and then the ecosystems at the side. So we've got that typical railway system. We've struggled and we've had challenges with reverse, with Tristram, the design of that infrastructure, but we can get that generic structure. And then we need to collect the data to show how we then can move forward, not only from the new projects, that new infrastructure, but also then from the maintain, you know, the existing railway sites as well. Do the analysis, and then number 5, deliver that tool that enables us then to have that valuation ability, so that we, from a biodiversity, from an ecosystem potential, we can actually compete with the business case for actually building the railway in the first place, and where all that funding is going to the shiny bits of metal. Actually, how much of that can we take for developing and managing the biodiversity at the sides? And then the flags at the bottom are the partners we have in the project at the moment. I was talking to Vincent earlier. I was angling for one of the possibly even the kick-off meeting to be with our colleagues in Sydney Trains for no other reason than to incorporate them within the OIC. But maybe we'll have the European meetings as well, maybe one for each month of the project as we go forward. So I see P&R's agreeing with that. Maybe I have to chat with Lucy with the travel budget, but we'll see how we go. But to get that, I mean, that's a massive breadth of experience across, you know, Europe and globally as well, bringing in Australia. So that's the project. We haven't kicked off yet, but we need to get moving on it, and the opportunity to take, you know, everything that we've heard today forward, learning from Herbie, Tristram, Reverse, moving forward. I think it's there's a definite benefit to where we go. So thank you very much.